Is Green Zoro still playable in the current meta? Find out right now, as I'm going to be plugging in the brand new Zoro starter deck that everyone keeps proclaiming as the Mihawk starter deck into my version of Zoro, which I'm officially giving the name of Zoro Juro for. Prior to us getting into some live gameplay from locals, let's go ahead and let's do a deck breakdown first. Alrighty guys, so as you're going to see on your screen, I have a deck list that I'm going to go through and explain my reasoning for why each of these cards is in here. There might be some tech that is going to catch you off guard, might be confusing. This is a work in progress, although I've run a lot of games on the sim and it seems pretty good. Shout out my boy Jax. He helped me deck test this against Mihawk and Goofy, and against both of them it didn't feel too bad. So we'll see as we continue to play games if we want to make any modifications, but for now this is what we're going to be going to locals with. So you're going to see starting off 4 of the 1-cost Prona Searcher. Common Sense gives you Slash or an event card, so that's pretty much what you need if you're playing Zoro. After that we got 4 copies of Laboon, my boy Laboon. I think this is the most important card in the deck currently, which is funny because there's a lot of heavy hitters, but given how much board removal is in the game right now, a lot of blue is running Gravity Blade, Raging Tiger, and there's just so much board clear that's built into a lot of the meta decks right now that I feel like you have to have Laboon on the board in a majority of these matchups to be able to sustain a board state where you're holding control. So definitely need 4 copies of Laboon. Unfortunately can't search for him, but given that this has the Wano package in it, you are doing a lot more draw than you normally would with Zoro. So it's clear to me that Bandai, with the release of the Zoro starter deck, is really trying to emphasize giving Green the ability to keep up with the current meta by being draw heavy, right? I know that's what a lot of people are talking about Mihawk and why it's so strong. When I played Mihawk, the deck was just way too brick heavy and I absolutely hated it because of it, but of course throwing the Wano package in there and it's going to assist, but I also do think it's going to assist with Zoro, as you're going to see here. So after that we do have 4 copies of the Kinemon. I subbed out the Hiyori for Kinemon. I think Kinemon is just a much better card. You pay 1 Don, rest your leader, or you can rest another Don, so it just gives you some more flexibility, but also you draw 2 trash ones so you can fix your hand. Meanwhile Hiyori only allows you to search and grab 1 card, so if you're in a really bad situation where you search and you find 3 Tashigis there, you might be cooked for the rest of the game. So running 4 Kinemon, I think that's really good. Of course we have the 4 3-cost Mihawk. I think this is just a requirement for the purposes of board control. Really good on curve on your 2nd turn. You can even play it on your 3rd turn if you're kind of bricked up a little bit, so I think it just provides some good variety in what you're able to do. And then after that we're gonna have the Hiyori, and this is where it's getting a little spicy. So this is the 4-cost 0k Hiyori, and the way that this one works is you can play it for 4 costs, and what you can do is you can activate main, so then you can trash the card, which allows you to draw 1, and then you can play a 5-cost or less Wano character. So this combination is really good with the new starter deck Odin, which also allows you to draw a card as well as to freeze a 6-cost or less character. It's very strong. So that combination I think is very, very strong. The Hiyori is not being ran in most decks that are running Wano, but I really like it just because if you get the combo off, you get Odin for 1 less Don cost, so you can play a 5-cost on your 2nd turn if you're going 2nd, but also you get 2 cards of draw plus the draw from your initial turn, which I think is incredibly beneficial in a deck that is supposed to be draw heavy. After that we have 4 copies of the Kinemon. I actually was recommended this card from the Pop 1 podcast. Shout out the boys over there. The deck doctor himself, Brian High, recommended the Kinemon. I was running in the Odin where when rested it gives plus 2k, and it was just really helped in terms of being able to assist in surviving turns when I'm playing it with the Mihawk because it comes out as rested. But the reason why I really like the Kinemon is it gives my leader 3 Don back, right? So obviously with Zoro I'm able to utilize leader effect. It gives me ability to get a swing off for board clear, which is great. But the other thing as well is if this Kinemon card is KO'd, I can rest any card I want to on the opponent's board. So that includes leader, any character, as well as Don cards. So I think it's really easy to catch people off guard. Of course, really good players, what they do is usually they just sequence their play last and they'll full swing into the Kinemon. So I've considered running the 4-cost Zoro, 4-cost 5k that restands 2 Don and also restands after every turn. But again, given the current state of the game, I feel like board clear is really important. And if I'm playing the Kinemon, I get leader ability guaranteed. Meanwhile, if I play the Zoro, I don't. So we're gonna test that out, see how it is, but the Kinemon's been feeling pretty good. Of course, the heart of the deck, you need this if you have any chance of winning a game. Tashigi of 4 copies, absolute necessity, right? Rest 6-cost character, original cost or less, you need this card. you need this card. That's it. You need this card. It gives 3 Dom back to your leader. You get this on curve. It just feels fantastic. You have to have this card. Just required. After that, of course, we do have the Odin. I did briefly touch on this, but the Odin playability, I really like streamlined plays. And when I had previous iterations of the Zoro deck, I only like to run Tashigi. I know a lot of Zoros like running Cavendish as a backup plan, provide more consistency, but for me, it's always kind of been Tashigi or a bust. But the introduction of this Odin card really does help with consistency, as well as give you some opportunity in terms of different plays you can make, right? So the Odin, of course, leads into the Law, which I have 4 copies of. Classic Law, you can grab any card off your board and play up to one that's a 6 cost or less. So again, really helpful when you're talking about Tashigi Law combo. But even now, you can throw the Odin out there, which again, Odin allows you to draw a card, as well as to freeze a 6 cost or less from being able to swing on your opponent's next turn, which can be very helpful. And then the next card here, of course, the Mihawk. And it's so funny how these cards kind of go tandem with each other, as in the Odin is a substitute for Tashigi if you miss curve, but the Mihawk is a substitute for Law if you miss curve. You can use Mihawk to play Odin, you can use Mihawk to play Tashigi, so again, provides more opportunity there. But the other really interesting thing about this Mihawk card is that when you swing, you get to draw a card, which is very helpful. Of course, this card is going to be very useful in Mihawk because the card text actually states that when rested, so what Mihawk would want to do is play this card, then play in the Odin, then they'll rest the Mihawk, draw a card utilizing leader ability, right, to rest, and then get 3 Dom back, and then you draw the card. So there's a lot more variety it provides for Mihawk in benefit, but I do think that even for Zoro, this is really helpful because it's a 6 cost 7k, and given that Tashigi used to be your biggest body at 7k, just having more of a bigger mid body is very beneficial. Plus, again, every swing you get a Don, so it can be beneficial. After that, this is my hidden tech card. I absolutely love running a card that talked to Don multiple times about this. He's trying to get this card out of my deck. It just was not going to happen. It's 0 cost event where you trash 1 card and you get 3k counter. This is my anti-brick deterrent. There's nothing I hate more in the world than being bricked and losing a game because I'm bricked. And given there are currently 15 bricks in my deck, this just helps negate 3 of those, and I think it can be more beneficial. Given this deck is supposed to be very draw heavy, ideally I should never be super bricked, but there will be situations where I might be. And the other thing that I've come to notice over my time of playing One Piece, people have a tendency of swinging 7k into a 5k leader, which 3k of counter for pitching a brick gets the job done and can really help out. Also, this card is utilized for protecting board. It can be utilized for character or leader, so there's so many times where I've had this card and I've pitched a brick to be able to save a Tashigi on my board, a Law, an Odin, a Mihawk, and it just does really help out in being able to preserve your board state. After that, 2 DMGs, really useful, of course, against Red Blue Ace if you do encounter that with the new gate. Absolute necessity against Teach, in my opinion, especially if you get to the later part of the game when Teach has those big bodies out. After that, we have the 1 cost event. I know you're strong. This card is really good in terms of being able to control the board state. So many situations of playing against Purple and L and they don't have Vari, right, that you can pretty much freeze any card in his entire board minus Reiju if the Reiju is plus cost. Utilize against BY Nami, utilize it against Red Blue Ace, you can utilize it against Goofy, even Green Mihawk. You can control the board state with this card. And in addition to this, it does provide you with 3k counter if you need to utilize it to sustain life. So I really like this card over Luna. I'm only running 2 copies right now. My deck is already pretty counter heavy versus other iterations of Zoro, so I really don't have any complaints about it. After that, we have 3 copies of the Restand event. I know what you guys are thinking. Nick, 3 copies of arguably the most important card in your deck. And what I will say for that is, given the amount of draw that's currently in this deck, I actually think 3 gets the job done. There's been many situations on previous versions of my Zoro decks where I was running 4 copies and then I would have 2 to 3 copies in my hand, and it just has no playability. You're pretty much just using it for counter in relation to the 0 cost event, which isn't what you want to be able to do with Zoro, right? You want to be able to constantly have pressure. You want to make sure your opponent's board is getting cleared. You want to make sure that they're milling through their hand, trying to counter out of your board state and your aggressive play style. So I do think that 3 copies of this is sufficient with how draw heavy this deck is. So we'll see if I end up changing that, but there's maybe been 1 game in the year I've played Green Zoro where I've utilized over 3 event cards, and with the current meta, I just don't see a situation where I really need more than 2 to utilize in a game. So we'll see, but that is the current version of my deck that I'm running. Let me know what you guys think about it. Let me know if you have any suggestions. Feel free to put down in the comment section. Always open for a discussion when it comes to deck building and different iterations that people might be running. But let's go ahead and let's fast forward to me going to locals, and you guys are gonna get a live action breakdown of my gameplay. All right, guys, we're gonna go into the VOD review now in relation to my time at locals Different from what Dom did in his video where he kind of had one smooth transition. I'm probably going to be doing a lot of pausing in between my video. Only reason why is I have a tendency of playing really fast. So for the purposes of me being able to actually explain my thought processes, it's going to require me to be able to have some pauses in there to do so. So understand that if you see a lot of breaks or me doing some explainers before my turn occurs, that is why. Again, I like to have a pretty streamlined play style. I think Zoro requires a very tight mindset when it comes to how you want to play and what your play lines are supposed to look like. But it was an incredible time at locals, so I really hope you guys enjoy this content. All right, let's get right into it. Gonna be round 1 against my boy Jacob, and he is gonna be playing a counter matchup. Gonna be RG Luffy. It's gonna be a little bit spicy. So just to give some context in how the RG Luffy versus Green Zoro matchup goes, it's pretty consistently been a bad matchup for Zoro just because of the inherent built-in counter that is in RG Luffy that just negates Zoro's leader ability oftentimes. So what I like to do in this situation is 2 things. Getting repetitions against certain matchups is very, very important, especially if you're limited on time like I am, where you need to be able to understand your matchups going into them, despite an inability to really play that much. But for this one in particular, I really like just creating a large board state and being able to pick them apart, because at the end of the day, if I'm swinging 5k into RG Luffy and he has 4 Dawn up, if he's utilizing his Dawn to counter out of it, which he probably should, we are getting more value in terms of I'm swinging 5k into lead and he's utilizing 2k counter for that, right? The alternative of that is if he wants to go ahead and utilize a 1k counter, then he's pitching a card out of his hand at that point in order to retain value from the 2k Dawn. So I like to swing in very precise increments, either 5, 7, 9. Swinging wide against RG Luffy really depends on the situation. If he has a lot of Dawn up, you're going to see certain situations where I don't even bother to swing at him, just because given the amount of Dawn up, it doesn't make sense for me to rest the body when he's just going to rest 2 Dawn and the swing isn't going to go through. Or alternatively, you might even see me not utilize my leader ability to restand swing leader, just because there is multiple Dawn up still that RG Luffy can cash in. The other thing that I want to be sure to note is one thing about playing at your local community is you're going to have a good understanding of the players that you're going to be playing against on a weekly basis when they appear at locals multiple times. Jacob is a very good player. He actually just recently got into the San Diego League qualifier, so he's going to be playing that this weekend at the time of recording, so best of luck to Jacob there. I knew it was going to be a tough first round match, but the other thing that I wanted to add in here is that when I play against RG Luffy, with how Zoro is currently, because Zoro has 2 curve lines, as we did in the deck breakdown, I think right now it's better for Zoro to go second. However, for me, it's also a matter of just throwing my opponent off of curve. I know RG Luffy wants to go first, be able to get that 7 cost rush red Zoro out onto the board pretty early on curve. And as such, I did end up winning dice roll here. And my strategy was prioritize me making a board state, prioritize me taking him off curve. I end up winning dice roll and I select to go first, even though Zoro's curve right now is more so second base. So I look at starting hand. I end up keeping it. You're going to see it's a Mihawk 2 Searcher, a couple event cards in there. One is DMG. I'm running 2 DMG in my entire deck right now. So having the DMG, very, very important. Also, I have a mentality that if I have Searchers in hand, then I can always get back what I'm missing. So I utilize my first Searcher. You're going to see here I have a lot of good cards. Restand event. I have the I Know You're Strong, which is really good in RG Luffy, but of course I have to opt in for my girl Tashigi. You're going to see Jacob ends up playing stage here, which is unfortunate. The stage card that RG Luffy is utilizing currently is very, very strong, and when he does see it early, it can be a little problematic. The other thing Jacob does is he ends up searching, grabbing the Usopp that allows him to restand Dawn, and he's going to be pretty much making it very clear what his line is looking like this game. And this is why, again, it's so important that I took him off curve, because I'm delaying that, right? So ideally he wants to play an Usopp on turn 3. You see here he uses another Searcher, ends up getting the Rush Zoro, but again, that's off curve as well. All right, passes to me. I'm gonna have Odin in hand. I notice he has no Dawn up, so because he has no Dawn up, this is a really good opportunity for me to try to get some life. I end up opting for Searcher. The alternative play I could have gone for was for me to go ahead and swing 5 Perono and then 5 Zoro leader against lead. End up utilizing the Searcher just so, again, I can get those mid bodies that I'm looking for. Currently in hand, I do have multiple plays I can make between the Odin and the Tashigi. Ideally on this Surge, I'm looking for the Odin to grab it there, but I opt out and I grab the I know you're strong, and the reason why is because I know you're strong. It can be utilized against red Zoro. The 7 costs 9k, but it cannot, but Odin cannot, because Odin's only at 6 costs. So that's the main reason for why I ended up utilizing that, and it can be something that bites me in the ass, unfortunately, this game, as you're going to see. So Jacob ends up playing Rush Luffy, utilizes the Sunny, and he is going to be looking to swing at lead here. One other premise that I really want to make is that for me, I'm a huge believer in Zoro matchups, unless it's yellow where they're just taking a lot of life from you, in taking life early to sustain your board state later. And what I mean by that is you're going to see me take a lot of 5k, 6k swings early on, but the thought process is it's so I can utilize the counter I do have in hand, or the counter I do get, to protect my board state over everything. Because the worst case scenario for Zoro right now is not being able to have a controlling board state. That is why we run the Law. That is why we run the Mihawk. We're trying to get Dawn efficiency every turn to be able to maximize our board state. On the flip side of that, if I'm utilizing counter to counter out of my opponent's swings, I'm taking that counter away from what I can be utilizing to protect my board state, and thus is going to result in me losing those cards and my board state, which is what I need to be able to sustain winning the game. Zoro has kind of transitioned away from I'm Zoro, I will just curb stomp you no matter what because of my leader ability and the restand event, and it's transitioned more into I am annoying because I'm green, and I have all of these cards that I can play that give me maximum Dawn value. That is really what I've noticed is been a big transition in the recent metas over the last couple of sets. And you're going to see that that's kind of how I tailor my playstyle, as well as tailor my deck profile. And that's why I utilize the 0 cost event, which gives my leader or my board 3k of counter. You're going to see that throughout this video how that is pretty relevant. So if you see me taking 6ks and 5ks early often, understand that is the reason behind it. The other thing that's really important here is I always like to be at an odd number of life cards anytime I'm playing against a double attack character, just because it will put me down to 1 life, and once I get put down to 1 life, it negates the double attacker's ability, right? Because at that point, the double attacker only gets access to 1 Dawn card. It really depends on the situation, though. If the double attacker is giving me a very easy way out of countering, I will always opt into that. But like I said, you're going to see that throughout this matchup. There are instances where I might be taking a double attack that I could have countered out of, just because, again, I'm trying to preserve the counter for my board state, as well as sit at an odd number of life cards. Okay, let's go and hit play. So Jacob just played another Searcher, Bonnie Searcher. It's really funny. He actually told me that he ended up completely whiffing on the Bonnie Searcher, which goes to show you how unforgiving Searchers added to different decks are. Ends up swinging 6 to lead. As you're going to see, I have plenty of counter in my hand to get out of that. I could just use the Mihawk counter. Opt into taking it for the exact reason why I just said, which is I would rather utilize that counter on my board state because I know I'm about to start swinging. So end up drawing, got my Dawn cards. This is where it gets a little bit interesting, right? So he has 3 Dawn up. I'm considering my hand state. I do have Odin in hand, which can prevent the double swinging Luffy from resting, and I think that's going to be very beneficial. I could go Law into that, take back a Perona Searcher, play Perona Searcher. So you're going to see me go ahead, swing 5 into lead, so I'm not going to be activating leader ability, and that's for that exact reason. But again, you see how I end up getting him to mill 1 card from swinging an even swing of 5k into 5k versus swinging larger than that. Okay, so I'm going to play Odin. I'm going to freeze the double attack Luffy. I'll use Odin ability to draw a card. He still does have his 2 Dawn up, so what I am opt into doing, instead of swinging 8 with Tashigi, I'm just going to utilize Perona Searcher, and we're going to hope for a Mihawk or another Odin. We do end up getting the Mihawk, which is cool. Another thing I could have opted in there is to just get more counter on board in my hand, but given how much counter I already had between the 2 events, I figured it would be sufficient. So I see that he has his 2 Dawn up, so I opt to just pass. He ends up playing Rush Zoro on his next turn. One thing I always like to do is to make sure I have a marker up there. Plenty of times I've made that mistake. He does end up swinging 7k to lead, or excuse me, 8k to lead. And now this is getting a little spicy because, like I said, I like to stay on an even number, or excuse me, an odd number of cards, so I have to counter out of this. Unfortunately, I opt into utilizing both of the double events instead of cashing in the Mihawk or the Law, which I think I could have done as well, and that could have been more beneficial, just so I would have had more counter towards the end of the game. So that was definitely a mistake that I probably should have considered, but again, hindsight 2020. Ends up passing to me. We're gonna be looking for another Tashigi or Odin, just so we can get maximum value out of that Law or Mihawk play. We do end up getting a Tashigi. I opt into grabbing it so I can go ahead and then utilize the combo with Mihawk and Tashigi. The alternative is here. I could have utilized the Law instead of Mihawk, but I prefer utilizing Mihawk over Law just because my character doesn't come out as rested, which is pretty advantageous when I'm trying to make a board state like I am currently, because it means that next turn Jacob can't swing at my card. Meanwhile, they can if I utilize Law. And I'm swinging 8 into the Luffy double attack. He has 1 Dawn active, so I imagine he's going to save it, which he does. I end up swinging 7 to lead because, again, I want to make sure my swings are nice and even numbers, increments of 2 above his leaders at. So then we go 7 lead with Tashigi. Still has 1 Dawn up. He has 3 in hand. So, again, I make it in Milla's hand. He uses another 1k there because he's trying to retain value. So then I have a decision to make, which is, okay, do I want to go ahead and attach the 1 Dawn, play a little greedy? I know he's going to use his Luffy to swing this next turn. Ideally, I want to be able to counter out of that. So I could have opted into attaching the extra Dawn and then swinging that into lead to then mill another card or get him to take another life. That is all up for interpretation. My thought process is, okay, I think I can counter out of his next turn when he swings double attack Luffy, but as you're going to see, he ends up picking a very weird swing amount. He ends up selecting 10k. I was hoping he would go with something even, 7k or 9k. So my hand currently has 2 3k counters. It has 2 2ks. I would have to over counter if I opt to get out of this. So as I stated earlier, I like sitting at 1 life. I'm end up deciding to just take it because I'd rather maximize the counter in my hand. He ends up swinging 9 into Odin. Again, I like to utilize my counter to preserve my board state. So that's an easy 2Ks to utilize on my board. He ends up swinging 6 to lead. I contemplating utilizing the Law blocker here, but since I don't have a 1K, I've just utilized a 2K. If I did have a 1K, I would have just utilized Law blocker and gotten the 1K from there. Ends up passing to me, my turn. Now you're going to see a very, very big blunder for me. And this is why Dom and I always emphasize you have to go to locals. You have to get reps in person, because prior to going to this local event, I hadn't played in person probably in 2 to 3 weeks, just due to scheduling conflicts, as well as the shop had been canceling an event here and there. Also, they've been doing a lot of Pirates Party lately, and I've been trying to really focus on the new meta versus Pirates Party. So you're going to see here that I don't end up grabbing my last Dawn card, but it's so interesting. This is why I really enjoy having POV reviews, is I end up verbalizing that I have 10 Dawn in my hand, even though I don't actually have 10 Dawn in my hand. The good news, quote unquote good news, it doesn't end up biting me in the ass per se. As you're gonna see, the blunder is gonna come with me just not having really good knowledge of RG Luffy deck and what it's running currently. And my thought process going into this turn is, okay, he has 5 Dawn up, 3 cards. I have absolute control over this board state. Also, I have the I know you're strong in hand, so I could just freeze these 2 characters. There's no way he can end the game if I keep my Law blocker up. I'm looking peachy here. It's just a matter for me right now to mill cards and try to get value out of what my current board looks like versus his board state. So I start by swinging the 7k into the Mihawk. Allows me to draw 1 trash 1. Again, I'm looking for the Odin there as well. Unfortunately, don't get it. End up trashing the Law that just comes to hand. And that is where you see me grab my Dawn and actually verbalize I have 10 Dawn up, even though I don't have 10 Dawn in my hand because the Dawn card just sitting there unflipped. So again, it's all about perspective. So you're gonna see Jacob utilizing the event card that allows him to restand 3 Dawn as well. So you pay 2, restand 3, and then gives his leader counter. So he ends up countering out for that. So RG Luffy is really a lot of math. It's a big math problem. So I'm considering here, okay, I have supposedly 10 Dawn in hand. What can I do here? Okay, well, what I can do is I can opt to swing wide, where I could swing 7 with Odin, 7 with Law, 9 to Shigi, 9 to Shigi, and at that point, I'd have 4 Dawn left. So I could do that, but again, my thought process going in this turn was I will just utilize the I know you're stronger, and I will freeze his board state, make it just so he can't end the game. Next turn, meanwhile, I have complete board control. I'm going to utilize the counter in hand to save the cards I have, and we should be able to win next turn. However, game ends up taking a little bit of a flip. So I swing 7 with Odin. Again, I can't emphasize this enough in this match. If you want to make sure you're trying to get the most value out of their hand when it comes to utilizing their leader ability with their Dawn active, as well as cards in hand. So right now he has 1 card in hand. So to ensure that he's getting max value, he ends up taking that life. And now I'm going to be mapping my board out. This is something that I really like to do, especially with Zoro, because math can be kind of hard. And I'm just pondering the different swing amounts I want to do. So I'm pondering, do I want to swing wide with Tashigi? I'm pondering, do I want to try to go for end here with the restand event? I just don't see where the math makes sense. So what I do is I end up doing what I like to call these are feelers. As in, okay, if I swing into this Luffy for 9, and I can get him to burn 2 of his counters that he has from his active Dawn to save that card, we are in the most prime position ever to end next turn, because I'm just going to play the I know you're stronger, and as such, those cards are not going to be able to be activated on his next turn. The flip side of this is he has 2 cards in hand at this point. So if he does end up, so Luffy, Green Luffy's the double attack is 6 cost 7k. So me swinging 9 into it, again, even amount, perfect in terms of he has to use at least 2 Dawn cards, or he's utilizing at least 2 cards in general. So I figure there's no universe where he's giving this thing up. So I was thinking, okay, he's gonna rest 1 Dawn, and then he's going to utilize a 1k counter out of hand. He might even use it. Actually, no, he would definitely just use a 1k counter out of hand, just so it can mill his hand down, and then I can just poke him away with the Shigi swings. And to my surprise, he actually opts for letting it go. And this completely changes the play, because at this point, the value from I know you're strong isn't there in keeping the Zoro rested. Because the point of that card is you're spending 3 Dawn in order to freeze 2 cards. So what I like to think is, okay, transition of thought. No longer am I going to prioritize the I know you're strong play because I'm not going to maximize value. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to retain that card and keep max value with it as a counter. So I'm like, okay, that's very interesting that he opted into doing that. I have 4 Dawn up. It's supposed to be 5 Dawn in hand. Again, I did end up picking my Dawn this turn, which is why very important that you verbalize what you do. End up swinging 7 to lead. He's going to ponder what he's going to end up doing. He does still have his counter up, so he does have options. I opt into now swinging wide with Tashigi. Going to go 9 into leader because he only has 2 Dawn up. He has 2 life. So my entire thought process is we end this game next turn for sure. My board state, complete control. He doesn't have a way of ending with me having the law blocker. I have a decent amount of counter in hand. I left up the extra Dawn in case I end up getting another event card out of my life to give me more of a give me more counter in hand. He has 3 cards in hand, and then here it comes. You're gonna see it. Good old Brook. I always forget this card exists, and it is my biggest flaw is in this matchup in particular, and just green matchups that run Brook, is forgetting that card exists. So now we're in trouble, right? Because he's gonna have 3 swings total, including the Zoro restanding twice for a swing, or restanding once after his initial swing. And I just don't have the counter in hand. The good news is the Dawn restand play, to me, missing down the Dawn didn't even matter. But again, this is where it comes down to repetitions. You got to be able to know what's in your opponent's deck. And unfortunately, in that matchup, I completely forgot that Brook was a thing, despite me having complete board control, despite me putting myself in a position to be able to end next turn. I unfortunately forgot Brook was a card. And as such, I ended up losing round 1. Perspective, though, I don't disagree with my play to do what I did on my last turn. Of course, when I consider everything that happened, it might have made more sense for me to go ahead and play another law blocker. I think if I knew that the game was going to turn out the way it did, in terms of he's going to play Brook on his next turn and be able to go for game end, I probably just would have played I Know You're Stronger at that point and not even worried about the swing into his body. Him and I actually discussed this after the game because I was very curious, and I was surprised he didn't opt into saving his double attack Luffy. So I was curious of what his mentality was about that. And what he told me was, one, he thought I had a line to end the game based off his current hand state and what my board looked like, which I don't think I did. I think it would have been very risky, especially with that board state, but I understand his hesitation. And number 2, I asked him, if I would have swung 8 into it instead of 7, would you have countered out of it? And he said yes. And it goes back to card investment, right? So if he invests 2 cards to save that 1 card, he already knows he has Brook. He already has his idea plan, what he can do on his next turn. He sees that he has 1 line to try to end on the next turn. And again, unfortunately, this just comes down to why you have to know your matchups. You have to know the decks that your opponent's running, because I was in a very strong position to be able to end next turn. Like he knew the game was going to be over next turn. I knew the game was going to be over next turn. It was just about me positioning myself to be able to where he and not allow him to end. And of course, like I said, Brook is a card. Came out, and as a result, I ended up losing. But shout out to Jacob. Thank you so much for watching our content, man. It is always an honor to have a conversation with you and to play against you. And I wish you the best of luck at your qualifier in San Diego this weekend. Alrighty, camera battery died. So going into this second match, you're going to see him playing against another RG Luffy. This time I'm playing against Riley on RG Luffy. Just to give some context about Riley as a player, he's been consistently playing this deck for about 2 to 3 months at this point. So given how strong RG Luffy is currently in the meta, I imagine he's probably going to be very good at utilizing it. And again, this being a counter matchup for Zoro, it is definitely tough. I end up losing dice roll this time, which for me isn't really a problem. It's more so of an issue in that he's just going to be able to play on curve, which means I'm going to be seeing that 7 cost 9k Zoro, which gives his leader plus 2k very early and hopefully not often. So thought process going into this, okay, I'm going second. Ideally, I want cards that I'm going to be able to utilize for maximize efficiency on my 3rd turn. That's going to be Mihawk into Tashigi, Mihawk into Odin, Law Tashigi, Law Odin. So that is my thought process for my initial hand state. The other thing I'm going to try to do during this video review for this game is to kind of take more pauses. I have a tendency of talking really fast, so while it may be easy for me to process everything that's going on in my head and it sounds normal, I understand from a viewer perspective that might be a different situation. So I'm going to focus on really having a lot of pauses in between the hands so I can show you my thought processes in between the turns. Okay, so let's go ahead and start this one. So my initial hand is going to be pretty decent. I have Mihawk that allows me to play out another body. I have Tashigi. I have a Toucan Laboon. And I have the Kinemon Searcher. Given I'm going second, I opt into keeping that hand because I do have a lot of pieces for my curve that I would like to see for this matchup. Riley ends up playing the Nami Searcher. Ends up grabbing double attack Luffy. Good old double attack Luffy. Got some PTSD from the last game. Passes to me. I end up drawing. So I have a lot of plays I can do at this point, right? I get the Kinemon, which means I have perfect curve for turns 1, 2, and 3 at this point. If I get a Mihawk or a Law, we will play Kinemon, rest my leader, draw 2, trash 1. Unfortunately, we don't end up getting the Law or the Mihawk. I have 2 of the restand events. I opt to trash one of them just because Swinging wide, as I mentioned in the previous matchup, often isn't a good thing that I do against the RG Luffy, or I try not to do. So I imagine it's more so just about making the board state than anything. And also DMG, I'm only running 2 copies in my deck. It's really good against RG Luffy. You don't have a choice but to keep that. Riley ends up playing stage early, which kind of sucks, and then he ends up getting his Usopp, so that means his curve is pretty strong at this point. He's gonna have Usopp on his next turn. He probably already has a red Zoro in hand, so he's gonna have his next 2 curves ready to go. Ends up swinging 6 against me. I end up taking it. I've already established my mentality about that in the previous turn, the previous game, excuse me, where I like to take life early and prioritize protecting my board. I play the Mihawk and the Kinemon, restand 3 Dawn, just going to swing 9 to face. He only had 1 Dawn active at that point, so I figured he would just take it, and he does. As predicted, he ends up playing Usopp on his 3rd turn, utilizes stage, giving his leader 1 rested. Swing 6 into face. Of course, I have the counter to get out of it, but I opt into taking it for the exact reason of I know I have TCG coming on this turn. I want to make sure I protect her and my board state over everything. So now I have a little bit of a thinker. I'm on my 6th Dawn turn. I could play Perona, and I could try to search on this turn because I know I'm playing TCG anyways, which only costs 5 Dawn. And then I could go and try to get another card out of my hand, which could be either the Mihawk or the Law, to then play something else on my next turn. However, as I previously discussed, which I'm going to say this a lot because I just played this matchup, but I like to swing as much as possible in RG Luffy for small amounts. 5k, 5k, 5k. Make him burn through his counter. Make him burn through 1Ks in hand. It puts him in a weird predicament where the player has to think, do I just want to burn a 1K? Do I want to burn the Dawn that I have active right now? What are his swing amounts going to be at this point? So I play the Tashigi for 5 Dawn, and the reason why is because I have the Mihawk out there, which is a 3 cost 4k. I have the Kinemon that's a 4 cost 5k, and of course I have my leader swing. So when I'm playing Tashigi, I want to be able to try to get this Usopp off board on the basis that I think he's either going to burn his Dawn cards protected because it gives him restand Dawn, or I can just completely get off the field because I have other swings coming. So what I do is I play Tashigi, I rest the Usopp, give 3 rested to leader. I have 1 active at that point. So the thought process is, okay, I have a couple different things I can do. The first thing I can do is I can attach an extra Dawn to Zoro, my leader, and then swing 9 into Usopp, which gives a really good increment to where he has to burn at minimum 3 cards if he wants to save it, right? He has to utilize either 2 of his Dawn and a 1k counter, an event card of some sort, which could give him the counter, and then he's burning another card. Again, I really like to swing in. It's funny I'm saying even though it was odd, but even increments of cards burned, if that makes sense. So 7k into 5k, 9k into 5k. I know I'm getting a minimum of 2 cards with 7k swing, 3 cards with a 9k swing, unless there's an event of some sort. So I'm thinking, okay, do I want to do that? How annoying is this Usopp going to be? It's going to be pretty annoying, but I also think he's going to try to save it. So even if I swing 9 into it, he's probably going to save it. So I'm like, okay, what's the other plan here? The other plan is I could attach a Dawn to my Mihawk and sequence my play for where I'm going to swing Zoro into Usopp first, and then he's going to counter out of it with 2 of his Dawn, so I only have 1 Dawn active. I have then 3 swings, 1 with my Mihawk, 1 with my Kinemon, and then 1 with my Zoro leader on the leader effect restand. So I opt to do that because that puts him in a really tough pickle, and I can mill cards out of his hand. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play, and you're going to see that that is the decision that I end up making because I rather get more swings off and get more value out of his hand state than to try to kill this Usopp. Swing 8 into Usopp, and then as I predicted, he ended up saving it. I swing 5 into lead with the Mihawk now. Utilizes his last Dawn, so I know 1 Dawn is getting through, or 1 swing is getting through minimum, right? I have the Kinemon 5k, he's probably going to counter out of it. He does leaves leader effect, restand, or not leader event, leaves leader effect, reset, swing 8 to lead. He does end up taking that one. As predicted, he hit his curve perfectly, ends up playing Rush Zoro. He ends up swinging into my small body Mihawk, which that guy is dead. He's gone. So My board state is still looking pretty healthy, which is good. Only thing that's annoying is his leader is now going to be a 7k for this turn, which always makes it a little bit spicy. I have a couple different things I can do. So I'm looking at my hand state right now. I do have the Resand event. I have 2 Perona Searchers, so I have some possibilities and things I can do. He only has 1 Dawn up, which is good, but his leader is a 7k. He has 2 life. I could opt to swing wide with my current board state, maybe do 7k Kinemon, 9k Tashigi, and then the rest on my leader. Or what I can do is I can utilize a Searcher and try to prioritize making my board state even stronger. So I believe I opt in for the latter, and yes, I do. I end up utilizing Perona Searcher, where I'm just looking to have a Law or a Mihawk in hand. I end up getting one of my Odins as well, and I will take the Law. The Law will allow me to then replay the Tashigi, which allows me to swing on the Usopp again if I want to. Additionally, though, what I'm looking for now is a Tashigi would be incredible, or another Odin. So I do get Odin in hand at this point. I see the Mihawk in there. I opt for the Mihawk, which I think, hindsight on this, is a misplay. And I say that just because I think I could have gotten more value if I decided to grab the Law, because you can't play Law in a Mihawk and you can't play Mihawk into Law. But my thought process in that moment was I want to take advantage of him only being a 7k and having 2 Dawn cards up right now. So I want to have some remaining Dawn where it can result in me being able to swing into his leader still. So end up opting for the Mihawk. Thinking through the current play, I have another Searcher I could do. I could do Kinemon Searcher, opt not to do it, or I do 7k into lead at this point. He's going to counter out of it. He utilized the event card that allows him to resend 3 Dawn. And I'm like, okay, well, that changes stuff. I could swing wider with the Kinemon and leader, but I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to play Law. And we're going to try to get rid of this Usopp, or again, burn his counter that he has in hand. So I end up resting the Usopp with Tashigi. I swing 8 into the Usopp. He's going to have to burn 2 Dawn if he wants to keep it again, which he will do because of how important that is. So then, okay, well, then we'll swing the Kinemon into him, and that's another Dawn card. So him utilizing another Dawn card indicated to me a couple of things. And this is where it's really important to track the current state of the game. It was at that point where I realized something was a little fishy with his hand, and I figured he was pretty bricked because from an efficiency standpoint, him utilizing the Dawn card to protect the Usopp was less value than it was for me to go ahead and swing at his face. And the reason why I say that is I'm swinging 5k into 5k with the Kinemon and the Usopp. I imagine he would just pitch a 1k counter, and then he would leave the 1 Dawn up for my leader swing. So him having to utilize the Dawn to protect the Usopp and being tapped out, as well as then taking my swing going down to 1 life, which is always a very risky thing to do against Zoro because of the restand event and what my current board state looks like. It told me that his hand was probably pretty bricked, which is going to be really relevant going into my next turn. Passes to him. He ends up swinging a 7 into my Tashigi, which, again, I will always protect my board state. That is what I keep my counter for. I want to make sure I have control over that. So easy decision for me to be able to counter out of it. He opts into then playing the Rush Luffy to make my Tashigi 0 cost. From an efficiency standpoint as well, it probably would have made more sense for him to play that first, just so he could get the Zoro swinging the leader. I don't think it matters too much, but we will see what the outcome is of this game. So my Tashigi is dead. I'm not going to be utilizing all the counter in my head to get out of these swings. He ends up swinging 6 to lead, so now I have a little bit of thought process. Okay, my board state's looking a little bit thin. I have 2 2k counters. It makes sense to me to cash in one of the 2k counters, which I do because I know he's going to have some big swings coming on his next turn. And this is where it gets. This is one of the craziest plays I can remember in recent memory in terms of line, right? So this is my current board state, right? I have a Kinemon, which is a 5k swing. I have the Law Blocker, which is a 6k. He has 1 life and 4 Dawn up, and I have my restand event in hand, 10 Dawn turn. So my thought process was, let's go ahead, and my hand is kind of bricked in that it's 2 Mihawk and the Law. You can't play them off each other, unfortunately. So Do I want to play the Mihawk and try to stall the game out? Do I want to try to potentially go for end on this turn? I think it'd be a really hard situation for me to try to end the game, but the last turn did tell me that Riley was pretty bricked. So what I like to do, as I said in the previous game, I like to throw out swings as a feeler. So what you're going to see I do is, okay, let's look at my hand. I really don't have a play. I could DMG, but there's just no efficiency from there. So what I end up doing is I end up doing some mental math, and the Dawn totals made sense to me. So I have 9 on my lead. I end up just going to swing on his 2K because why not? I have PTSD from Owner Regionals when I lost to a Law 2K. I end up swinging 9 into his Zoro. So Zoro 7 costs 9K, and this is another feeler swing, which is why this is so important when you're playing Zoro, that you do this kind of stuff. You play these mind games, and you get information when you can. So I'm swinging 9K into his 9K Zoro. There's 2 things I'm looking for here. 1, I'm looking to see if he mills a card from hand for 1K, but number 2, I'm looking to see if he utilizes his leader ability and cashes in one of his Dawn cards. Because if he does the latter, then he is as bricked up as I think he is. So he's thinking it through. This is an easy 1K. And I remember I'm asking him the whole time, I'm like, dude, you have 6 cards in hand? Like, there's no way you have 6 cards in hand. Like, he must be turbo bricked. So he does opt out. He does opt for utilizing his leader effect. He only has 3 Dawn up now. And this is a scary situation for RG Luffy, because I'm swinging 7K to lead now. So I'm getting 2 cards from him minimum. I know he doesn't have any 1Ks probably. So he ends up cashing in the 2 Dawn. He only has 1 Dawn up. I have restand event. This is a very scary situation. And I'm seeing a line in my head. I'm seeing a road for me to possibly end this game on this turn, which is one of the craziest lines I think I've had. So I'm thinking through, do I want to swing with Zoro here? I'm asking him how many 2Ks he has in trash. He has 0 2Ks in trash. This is either the greatest bait either, or he's really as bricked as I think he is. I swing 7K into lead. He cashes in his last Dawn card and plays I Know You're Strong, and it's at this point where I realize, oh, he is turbo bricked, super bricked. So we're going to go for end here. Swing 9 to leader. He takes... Restand, swing 9 to leader, and I end the game on a crazy line. I'm not over exaggerating when I say that's one of the wildest lines I've had, especially against RG Luffy, when you feel like those lines typically aren't there. It felt pretty good to be able to get a W against RG Luffy after consistently losing against it. But again, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. It's all about understanding the hand state, board state, and potential lines you have to end the game, and that information that I got from the previous turn really allowed me to do so. But GG to Riley, he is a very good player, and I do think that as RG Luffy stays strong in the meta, he's going to continue to get better at the game. So next up is a fun game. It is a friendly match that I played against Kane, Kane is a core member of our local community. He unfortunately didn't get into our locals, which tells you how crazy the locals get at Hidden Fortress. So many people there, he couldn't even get in on the wait list, and that's a 30-person plus tournament. So we're just playing a game for fun because I finished my game somewhat early, and he had no one to play against. So I, of course, just want to get reps on the new Zoro Juro deck that I just built. So he's playing Roger, and this matchup is interesting in that Roger versus Zoro kind of becomes a dance at some points in the game, and it really depends on if Roger gets his ramp early or not. If Roger doesn't get ramp early, it's a steamroll if I can make a board state. If Roger does get his ramp early, it's very tough unless I get a bunch of Tashigis on board. Of course, the Mihawk being a 7K does help as well, but when he triple ramps and he's just playing the Roger promo on repeat, the 8 cost 10K, which gives his leader plus 2K, it's so hard to swing into Roger when it's a 9K leader when your biggest body is 7K. And that's the only issue with Zoro, is that you don't really have any big bodies. You need to prioritize rushing people down, playing hyper aggressive, and it's a good thing and a bad thing. For this matchup, it, like I said, ends up in a little bit of a dance, and what I mean by that is it's not as clear in this video as other matches I've had against purple red Roger, in that There are times where I literally will just attach Tendon to my leader, and then I'll just swing at his board state because I don't want to get him down to 0 life, because he's just going to play Rush Roger, and it becomes a battle of attrition in that I'm hoping he runs out of the promo cards, the promo Roger, the 8 cost 10k, so I can then swing with the rest of my board state and get more efficiency out of my turn. And he is just waiting to go to 0 life, either between me or him, so he can play Rush Roger and look down the game. So that's the very interesting dance that kind of ends up in the situation. I do have a ponder about it at some point, but look at my initial hand. It is a clear mulligan for this matchup. In that, again, I want to make sure that I have some better pieces for my curve. Look at my hand, and whew, that is quite the hand. I have curve 1, I have curve 3 with the TCG. If I get a Mihawk, we'll have curve 4. Look at my hand. Again, my hand is pretty insane there. And I end up opting for the Mihawk, which is crazy. And I even say this in the VOD. I would never opt for Tashigi, and I would never opt for taking that over Tashigi. But again, since I had the Odin and Tashigi in hand, playing a Mihawk would have been more beneficial, and I get more value that way as well. So I will then utilize Kinemon, draw 2, trash 1. Look at my hand again. I don't have a recent event. You need to have a recent event into this matchup, so I will keep the recent event. Trash, I know you're strong. Swing 6 to lead. Kane ends up taking it. And one thing I'm noticing is he is not getting any ramp. And when Roger's at this point where he's on his second turn, no ramp, it's a problem. So he ends up attaching all his Dawn to leader, swinging 9k to lead. Of course, I'll just take that. And this is where, again, the alarm bells are going off in my head that he is super bricked, and he probably has a bunch of big bodies. So he's in a rough situation. Kane did mull before the start of this game, so again, that's just all information that tells me he's pretty bricked up, because he had to get whatever. He had to keep the hand that whatever was dealt to him. So end up playing Tashigi, don't rest anything. Kind of not as big as a value that you can get with Tashigi, of course, but when thinking, the only option I had for another play was playing Odin, and there's no value at all for me to play Odin there. So I was like, oh, whatever. He again ends up attaching his Dawn to leader, swinging 6k to lead. I take that. He plays the Odin afterwards, gets ramp, the Odin blocker. So then I'll play Mihawk into my own Odin, make it so that his Odin cannot be rested. And then I will have 1 Dawn up. So kind of a weird situation in terms of swing. I'll utilize Odin effect, draw 1 card. And since he's still a 5k leader, I'm still getting pretty good value here. I was contemplating maybe utilizing Kinemon, but I just figured the swing again. When you're playing against Roger, you kind of want to just rush down him as quick as possible. Make sure his hand's not crazy big by the time he gets to his 7k turn, where he turns into a 7k leader. So I swing 6k lead, uses 2k. I swing 7k with Tashigi. He ends up cutting that out of that as well. He only has 3 life, so I don't blame him in terms of him just stalling, because he sees my mid game getting very scary. Kane ends up playing Gabon, gets his ramp. Now he's a 7k leader. So he becomes a 7k leader on turn 4, which is, again, pretty slow for Roger. Typically, I've seen some Roger games where they're 7k leader in 2 turns. It's ridiculous from triple ramp. Okay, he ends up swinging 9 to lead. I take it. Doesn't want to swing with his Odin, which makes sense. He wants to utilize as a blocker. So one thing I like to do in these situations is I already have pre-planned in my head what I'm going to do. I'm going to play the Law into the Tashigi and utilize it to rest the Odin. So now it's a matter of trying to get value here. So what I am thinking is, okay, I'm going to swing Mihawk first, because I want to get as much value as possible. I'm hoping to get another Tashigi or another Odin, because then I can play Law, take back something off my board, and then play those cards rested, and I don't have to worry about taking my Tashigi off board to then replay it again. So that was the thought process I had. And also, just from my experience, people have a tendency of forgetting that sequence when it comes to Zoro. So I knew worst case scenario, I was going to play Law, take back the Tashigi, play the Tashigi, rest the Odin. But I just needed to make sure my initial swings got through. What If people remember that sequence or they understand that I can just play Law this turn and rest that Odin blocker, what they'll do is they'll just opt to cash in the blocker in one of my board swings. So I try to just utilize the Tashigi swing only, but I got a little bit greedy here. In that I was hoping to get another Tashigi or Odin from my draw from the Mihawk. So look at my hand, predetermine what I want to do. Play Perona Searcher. Again, I'm looking for Tashigi or Odin. And that is a terrible draw. Absolutely horrendous draw. Do I want 2 copies of Law? Not really. Do I want to grab another recent event? Possibly. Since these are the last 2 recent events I'm going to have, because I'm only running 3 in my deck right now. So I opt to take the recent event just because of how important that is for the matchup. Like I said, there are often situations where I decide to go ahead and just swing 12k into big bodies and resend because his leader's 9k. I swing 7k to lead. He ends up countering out of it. So use Mihawk effect, draw 1, trash 1. I then cash out the resend event to go ahead and grab the 1k counter. Swing 7k lead. I'm hoping he doesn't block this. Praying to God he doesn't block it. Don't block it, Kane. He's considering blocking it. I don't think he remembered that the Law occurs. But this is also, again, really important information. I just swung 7k into his leader, and he used an Usohachi. That's a 2k. So that tells me he has no 1ks. With how his hand is, with how Roger likes to operate, I want to be getting as much value as possible, which means I want to swing in even increments, as in I want to swing 7, I want to swing 9, I want to swing 11. I want to be getting cards out of his hand or getting those swings to go through. So I play Law, take back Tashigi, play Tashigi, rest the Odin, 3 down to leader. I will go ahead and cash that. Go 8 to lead. Go 7 to lead. Take it. Go 9 to lead. And he's going to take that as well because he has no counter. One thing I forgot to mention on this turn, and this is why it's really important for me even in opponent's perspective. I know this is just a friendly match, but I actually forgot to cash in my 1 Don for my Perona original search. Obviously, this wasn't intentional. This was just a mental mistake. It happens, especially with the pace of play that I have a tendency of playing at. This is something I really need to work on and make sure, again, that I'm verbalizing everything I'm doing. But from Kane's perspective as well, it's really important that you are tracking what your opponent is doing, because there are people who do have some malicious intentions in nature, and when they're trying to take advantage of, maybe an inexperienced player, which I'm not saying that's Kane by any means, but more so an unsuspecting player. I think that's a better discussion. And when you're playing at larger tournaments where there's thousands of dollars on the line, it's really easy to get caught up in your emotions. It's really easy to get caught up in the moment and making a mental error, like forgetting to draw a card, forgetting to get 2 Don, forgetting to, in this situation, tap my 1 Don. Thankfully, the 1 Don didn't really have any impact, as you're going to see, but I still felt incredibly bad, and I didn't realize until watching the VOD that I even made this mistake. So again, really important that you get your reps out there. So I kept the 1 Don up solely because I was trying to actually, there was no reason why I kept the 1 Don on. Now thinking about it, it makes 0 sense. Maybe subconsciously I knew because I don't even have an event card to play. So he ends up playing the Shanks Searcher. There's no ramp that the Shanks will give him anymore at this point, so it's strictly just a Searcher. He swings 7 to Tashigi. Or not to Tashigi, excuse me, 7k to lead. I want to remain healthy at this point just because I know I'm going to be taking 1 off his leader. I figure he's going to be playing Rush Roger. I don't really have a way of countering out of that. And I don't want to go down to 0 life because, again, that's my whole thing. So the good thing about Roger is that he just has such a streamlined play style. So this is the situation where I even joked with Kane, where it's like, man, do I really want to play like a rat right now? Because he's a 9k. Do I just want to full swing into the Scopper and then into leader and then leave all my stuff up so he can't clear my board next turn? And hopefully he just doesn't play the Roger. I put him in the conundrum of, okay, do I play the 8 cost 10k Roger to get my leader plus 2k to try to survive my next turn? Do I play the Rush Roger and just try to end the game this turn? So one thing I know is for certain, which is I'm probably going to get a swing through, which means I'm going to likely be seeing Mr. 10 cost 13k Rush Roger, or if I activate a blocker, I will lose the game, which means I need to have counter in hand. And the good thing is I actually have a ton of counter in my hand at this point. So that's what I'm pondering. I'm pondering what my line is going to be. And I'm swinging 9 to the Gabon because I think that's going to be enough for him to go. I don't think Kane's going to waste any resources because of how scared my board is.
I swing 9 to lead, use Mihawk effect, draw 1, trash 1, which again, looking to focus counter. So I end up trashing the Mihawk from hand because there's no counter. He Divine Departures, gets out of that one. So he used a Divine Departure for a 9k swing, which again tells me he's super bricked. So we're gonna go 9k lead again. He ends up taking that, which definitely gives me the red flag that he is going to be swinging, or he's going to be playing with Mr. Roger on his next turn. Double checking, gonna go 9 lead, and then I pass. So one thing I did in between this was I counted how much counter I have, and I knew I had enough counter to get out of the next play, which is going to be the Roger, of course. He swings 7 to lead. I have the 3-cost event. I'll cash my Resend event since I know this is the final game of the turn, or final turn of the game, excuse me. He swings 10k lead. I obviously have enough counter to go through, but I want to make sure he commits to the full end here, even though when I think about it, I don't see why I just didn't counter out of it, but swings 13k to lead, and I have 15k in counter. So I end up taking this one. GG's to Kane. Again, this is just a matchup where it really comes down to whether or not Roger gets the ramp off, and unfortunately, he didn't get the ramp off. Next game is against Blue-Yellow Boa, which is a very interesting matchup. I've played against it a couple times in the sim, and I feel like Zoro is really strong against it, especially with the current board state, because it's so hard for 5k leaders to get out of a 7k swing, and most of my mid game is 7k swings at your face. So if I can make a board state again, it's just very tough. Turn 1, I won dice roll. I ended up opting to go first. I should have probably gone second. I talked about it with Andrew afterwards, and he mentioned to me that his ideal curve for Boa is going second, of course, so he can play Grandma, or he can play Hiyori. Luckily, he didn't do that this game. He didn't get Grandma or Hiyori, which is really good for me. In these situations, if he played Grandma or Hiyori, I would have just probably not swung face, but because he didn't have Grandma or Hiyori, I opted into swinging face with the Perona as well as the Zoro leader. Unfortunately, he does trigger Grandma, and then he ends up utilizing Grandma's ability to be able to put a card there, but he does take a life. Plays Boa. He's going to give him 1 rested to his leader. This is going to be a pretty streamlined play for me again, right? Like, I'm going first. I have Tashigi in hand. I'm obviously just going to be swinging for face. Here against Boa, I probably should have used a 2k counter if I had one to spare, but I don't think I did in hand. So because of Boa's effect where I lose a life card every time I kill a Kuja Pirate, I know I'm going to be killing a Kuja Pirate here, so I'm going to be losing a life as well, but unfortunately, it's just a matter of the situation. I don't think I had a 2k in hand. If I did, I would have used it. So 8k lead, he will utilize leader abilities, so I take a life, and then I'll swing 8k lead. Now I know he's going to trigger something from this, but again, since I have a decent board state, I'm okay with it. Luckily, not a Gorgon Sisters, just Ren. Ends up utilizing Ren trigger, and I pass to him. My hand is looking very, very good, but if you notice, it's very bricky. I don't have much counter in hand at this point, which is going to get a little scary. He's going to play Borsalino for some sustainability. I have another Tashigi, and I have Mihawk in hand as well as Law. So again, my play is already made without me having to do any thought process at all. I'm going to be playing the Mihawk into Tashigi or the Law into Tashigi, but again, I like Mihawk if I have the life spare, just because I don't have to worry about utilizing the counter on my Tashigi I just played. He swings 6 to lead. I end up taking that. Thought process is, okay, he's going to swing either 5-7 or he's going to swing 6-6. I only have 1 2k in hand, and I don't have any other counter, really. I think I had like a Kinemon 1k, so I can either use the Kinemon 1k or the Laboon 2k, and it's still 1 card efficiency. So my play is already pretty much written here in the stars. I have 3 laws in hand. I'm super bricked. Like, it's a very scary hand. Even though my mid game is strong here, it's just super bricked. And so I'm going to play Tashigi and Rest Porcelina. Going to go 8k to lead. Andrew's going to think about it, but he is eventually going to just let it go. Doesn't want to spend too many resources, especially with how scary my mid game is looking right now. I'm going to then swing 7 to lead. He's going to take that. I'm praying for no trigger. Doesn't get a trigger, and then I'll attach 1 down to my leader, make it 9k to lead for a nice even swing amount. He ends up taking that as well. This is a very scary situation for Boa, being 1 life against Zoro with what my board state looks like. He's going to get a Ren trigger, he's going to get a Shaki trigger. It's going to allow him to get some more cards in hand. He does have some small bodies there. He doesn't know how bricked I am, which is a blessing in disguise, because this would be very scary for me if he knew how bricked I was in hand. So he ends up playing double of the 4-cost 6k yellow Zoros to get 2 life back. So this gets a little scary. So he's sitting at 3 life now. And my mid game, while it is strong, this is just 2 more opportunities for Bo to get a trigger on board, or hopefully he doesn't get a Gorgon Sisters. This game could turn very, very quickly. He ends up swinging a 6k to lead. I end up getting a trigger, which is crazy. So I get the 0-cost event, and this is where I normally never utilize the trigger, but in this situation the trigger was very important to me negating a swing because of how little counter I had in hand. Okay, so right now it's getting a little scary. He's got a very full board state and he has a lot of life. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, do I have a line to end the game? Possibly. Maybe I do, right? I have 2 recent events in hand, so there might be a line there, and this is where, again, I'm just trying to get information. I'm trying to fish information here. So I swing 7k to lead, just so I want to see. So he ends up pitching 2 cards to that counter out of that. Fine. I'm looking through my Dawn. I'm contemplating, do I have a line here to end the game? I'm thinking probably not. It's going to be a stretch, to say the least. I'd have to be swinging like 7 or 8 with leader times 3. So I swing 7k to lead, use Mihawk effect, draw 1, trash 1. Gonna get rid of one of these law bricks I have in hand. He does end up taking it. And this is where I told myself, I said, okay, if he takes this regular swing from my TCG, I'm just going to go for N because it indicates to me that he is super bricked. If he doesn't and he counters out of it, I don't have a line to really end the game. It's very risky for me to try to end the game. So I'm going to prioritize getting Law out there, try to clear part of his board, which I do. So I play Law into the TCG. I end up resting one of his Zoros. I swing on that. He ends up Zoro ends up going down, and then I will play a Kinemon, and this is a really, really important point in the game, so I need to make sure that I'm pausing it here. Okay, so I play the Kinemon, and Kinemon's ability allows you to either rest a Dawn card or to rest your leader in order to get the effect here. Now, I incorrectly sequenced this because I already predetermined that I wanted to utilize my leader restand as the means for me to go ahead and utilize the Kinemon because of a couple reasons. Number one, I already had 1 event card in hand. And I was hoping to get an event card. And number 2, I want to make sure I have this to the 2 Dawn up to be able to do so in case I got another event card for my life to be able to sustain, because he does have a line to try to go for N next turn, and it is a very scary situation that I'm currently in. So there's a lot. The other thought process is for me is, by God, if he triggers a card, I for sure lose, right? Like if I swing in the leader right now and he triggers a card, whether it's just even a 5k body, I'm in a very bad situation because he's gonna have, instead of 4 swings next turn, 5 swings. I only have the law blocker, my hand is totally bricked, and I don't have many event cards in hand, so it was a very rough situation. But I actually sequenced this incorrectly, so thank you to Andrew. I asked him if I could take it back. This was my first time actually sequencing this in person, and this is why, again, guys, running reps is going to be the moral of the story in today's VOD discussion is you got to make sure you're running reps on this stuff. So what I needed to do here first was to restand my Zoro leader before I played the Kinemon, so then I could utilize Kinemon effect of resting my leader instead of having to utilize a Dawn. So thankfully Andrew was very nice. He let me take that play back. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Andrew, if you are watching the video. So I restand Zoro, utilize the sequencing properly this time, and I'll rest my leader till I don't swing. So then I draw 2, trash 1. I do end up finally get some counter in my hand. Thank God I pitched another law. So I'm just hoping that I can sustain here, right? So I'm thinking he has a couple options here. He can play Big Body Boa, which he does opt into playing Big Body Boa. I'm also thinking that he could just try to go for N, and I think we even had this discussion after the fact that he probably would have been able to end if he just prioritized that here, but I think it would have been a little close. So he swings 5k to lead. I have 1k. Of course, swings another 5k to lead, use another 1k. I'm just, the counter I have in hand is just perfect for these increments. I just got super lucky. I mean, that's just like, this was just prime efficiency. It's not like I did anything special, just what ended up happening. So I end up getting out of every one of those swings. I didn't even have to utilize my law blocker, and he's in a rock and a hard place. He knows that this is a very tough situation. Unless he gets some crazy counters right now, it's pretty much going to be GG, especially with me having 2 event cards. I swing Mihawk first, draw 1, trash 1, just in case there's anything that comes to mind or any funny business. I can be sure to make my hand the best it can be. Andrew thinks about it, but he is eventually gonna take the card. Does end up getting a trigger. The trigger can be beneficial just because of the draw. But again, for me, given I have the 2 recent events, my line here is very clear. So I swing 7K with Law. He ends up taking that as well. Again, more information. His hand's likely pretty bricked. Ends up getting another trigger, which again is going to help him with drawing more cards in his hand to get more counter. We'll go 7K to lead as well. If he takes this one, I know for a fact it's just GG's. So 7K, I don't even worry about having to use my recent event, and I end up pulling that one out. All right, this next one, Red Ace versus Green Zoro. This is a very, very fast-paced game. So I'm going to do my best to try to explain my logic, but for this matchup, when I put against it, it is just pure aggression. My game plan is to just build a board state as quick as possible. So I'm going to be looking for the 3-cost Mihawk into Kinemon combo early. I'm going to be looking into, of course, having Tashigi on curve. I want to be sure that I'm getting a Tashigi on board as quick as possible. And that's pretty much the name of the game. Luckily, Zoro into Red Ace is really good just because I can clear his board pretty consistently every turn utilizing leader ability. So as you're going to see here, it's a very fast-paced game, but understand that's just because we're both playing aggressive. Also, he was a good player, obviously knew what he was doing. I like to think I'm somewhat of a decent player who knows what I'm doing, but especially on Zoro. So very fast-paced game. So I apologize in advance if you're having trouble trying to track this one. So my initial hand you're going to see here is going to be Kinemon, Mihawk, Toulon, another Mihawk. So thankfully I didn't mull yet because while I do have my second curve perfect with the Mihawk Kinemon, I whiffed completely after that. And I do not like having Law in hand with no searcher because it's just, you're praying to God that you get a Tashigi or you're getting an Odin, something you can play with. So I end up deciding to mulligan that. Hopefully my next hand is better. And there it is. So we have 2 Tashigis, we have a Searcher, we have a Laboon. This is a very good starting hand. So I used Prone to Searcher. I did lose dice roll, by the way, so he opted to go second. Looking at my hand here, I got 3 Mihawk. Okay, do I want the Mihawk or do I want to grab the Law? Well, like I said, I want to make a board state, right? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab the Law since I don't have a play that I can make with Mihawk, since I don't have a card to play. I don't have the Kinemon. He's just going to play Garb Searcher. He's going to be adding cards to his hand. Of course, this is Searcher turns. Nothing too crazy going on there. But I see my curve pretty clearly in terms of how I want to handle this game. So I end up drawing. And given that I don't have a play, I end up just going for 5K swing with Perona. And then I'll go another 5K swing with my lead. And he will counter out of that one. So I opted to swing with the Perona there just because, again, I'm trying to get card value. I figure he's going to take 1 life at least. So being able to get the counter out with the swing from Perona. It plays Little Oars, ends up passing to me. Of course, I'm playing Tashigi. I guess he was hoping I just didn't have it. Little Oars just a 4K at this point. So I will swing 8K. He's gone. I'll swing 8K to lead. He ends up taking that as well. So again, I mean, our strategy here is just very straightforward. We just want to build a board state. That's it. He swings 5K to lead. I'm considering the Whitebeard. I could counter out of this, but this is, again, one of those times where I like to stay ideally on a 3 life against someone who's going to have double attack, but I opted to utilize the 1K here just because I wanted to keep as much life as possible in case he does end up getting this exact turn, which is some Luffy bodies there where he ends up getting rush. So he swings that to lead. I end up taking that one. And I'm very happy I did end up countering out the 1K. So then it's going to be my turn. I'm in a little bit of a rough situation in that for max efficiency here, right, I want to be able to play Law Tashigi. So what I do is I play Laboon for 1 for the intention of being able to play Law into the new Tashigi where I'll rest 1 of his Luffys. And I'll be able to then have an extra body on board. We'll go 8K into the 6K Luffy. And he's in a rough situation now in terms of, okay, if he counters out of this, I'm just going to be swinging for the fences that face here. He's going to lose a lot of life, but he opts to saving it. I go 7K lead now with Tashigi. And he counters out of that. I remember this turn, I was very confused when what was happening just because I forgot what the Luffy 4-cost 6K does, and that you pitch a card and it gives additional 2K to your leader for the turn, making it a 7K. So this is why it's really important that you read cards, by the way, guys. If you don't know what something does, take a second. Like, we're playing really fast-paced here, like super fast-paced. I promise you there's not much editing that's going on in this last game, but it's just really important that you take a deep breath, you take your time, you keep perspective. If you don't know something, feel free to ask, right? Like 99.9% of the people in the community are really genuinely great people, and they don't want to rob you as a means to get in W. I will say, of course, there's always bad actors out there, so be diligent in terms of who you're dealing with, right? If someone is giving you the vibes that they're playing a little bit weird, or they might be a little bit of a shark, just keep that in mind. But I asked him about this because I was like, dude, what, like, how are you countering 1k out of a 7k swing? He's like, oh, because my Luffy gives plus 2k to leader when I pitch a card. Okay, so I end up passing. He's gonna swing 7k to lead. Or sorry, 7k to Tashigi. Sorry, 7k. He's gonna swing 7k to Tashigi there. It's an easy 1k counter, and this is where it gets real interesting. So he swings. He's swinging full Tashigi here, and again, my mentality, as you guys have seen, is no matter what, I will protect my board. I don't care if I lose every card in my hand. I had inefficient counter there. I see that this is all about tempo at this point. I don't think he can end the game next turn. He only has a few cards in hand, and me having the bodies is what matters here. So I end up cashing my counter. I'm considering, is there a possible line for ending? Maybe, but I'm in no rush to end this game, which is ironic because we're playing so aggressive, but I just have the tempo at this point. So I'm going to focus on board clear as well as getting swings off against his leader. Of course, he's a 7k now with the 7-cost Zoro that just came on board, so swing amounts are going to be a little bit wider than usual. But I'm going to go 8k into his Luffy. He's going to let it go, of course, because he needs to protect his leader. And we are just going for max value here. So we're going to go 9k into lead. So now he's stuck in a pickle. He knows he's going to have to pitch a card for the other leader ability. He's trying to do the mental math to see what the line's going to be looking like, but he knows that this game is getting very scary very quick. So he opts to take it, and again, when you're at 1 life against Zoro, it is just very, very scary. So then he utilizes the other Luffy ability. I end up swinging a 9 completely to life. He ends up countering out of it. He doesn't have many cards in hand. He's going to be playing the 10 beard here. It's just, or the, excuse me, the double attack beard, the 8 cost, 10k, no, 10 cost, excuse me. He's going to be playing the white beard that gives him double attack. It's just a very obvious play line. But he just doesn't have a way of ending. I left the law blocker up. I figured there wasn't a way for him to rest it. There's no brook here. He ends up just swinging to my board state against the Shigi. Again, my line here is very, very clear, which is I'm just going to go for end next turn on the restand event. I'm going to be swinging 12. I just got to keep my law up at this point because there's no way he can end. He's going to play the Whitebeard. Just out of pure efficiency here, he's swinging 7 into the lead. I end up utilizing DMG because that's an even 3k of counter, and his double attack doesn't go through. He utilizes the Whitebeard, swings. I end up taking that one. And of course, my line here, like I said, very straightforward. He only has 2 cards in hand. His leader's a 5k. This game is cookie wookie. So I give 1 to leader, or 1 to law. I can't emphasize this enough. I like swinging in even amounts, right? So I know I'm just going to be going with 11, which is an even number as well. So giving the 1 down to law to make it an even number instead of having to worry about 12, who cares? Like, it's more efficiency, in my opinion, when it comes to cards counter. So then I restand, go for game, and that is it. GG. Alrighty, folks. That is it for my Zoro VOD review. I really hope you guys enjoyed this content. Again, feel free to leave me some comments and feedback inside of the comment section below. All I ask is that you remain a constructive version of yourself. If you give any criticism, again, even in relation to any of the players, at the end of the day, guys, this game is supposed to be for fun. I'm very curious what you guys thought about this format. Let me know what you guys think down below. Was I talking way too fast? Do you feel like Green Zoro is back? I want to know what your guys' thoughts are. Anyways, guys, this has been Nick. Hope you have a great one. Catch y'all on the next one. Peace.